Welcome to the Grow Your Independent Consulting Business podcast. I'm Melisa Liberman, a fellow IC and business coach. On this podcast, I teach you to become a consistently booked independent consultant without becoming a pushy salesperson or working 24/7. If I can do it, you can too. Listen on to find out how. Welcome to episode 237 of the Grow Your Independent Consulting Business podcast. This is Melisa Liberman, and today we're talking about how to make the most of your business owner thinking time. This is so important because on this podcast, so often we talk about thinking like a business owner instead of an employee, thinking like a business owner instead of, or in addition to thinking like a consultant who's delivering the work. But sometimes that can be very vague. What does it mean to think like a business owner? How can you make that practical? How can you implement that concept for yourself in your business? That's what we're here to talk about today. So before we dive into the episode, let's talk about the agenda. First, we're going to talk about why does this thinking time even matter? Why is thinking time important to you as a business owner? And then I'm going to share with you 3 or 4 different ways to maximize your thinking time. So this is an investment that you're making in your business to set aside time to think. We want to make sure you can make the most of it. And then I'm going to share with you 5 pathways to structure your thinking time. And then we'll end the episode with a couple of ways to put this episode into action. And I strongly encourage you to wait until the end because I have a really fun way to put this thinking time into place for yourself in the business. So can't wait to share that with you. Okay, so let's talk about why does this thinking time even matter? Ask yourself, how would you and your business benefit from having more space to think? We know the concept that it can be important to have thinking time or to prioritize thinking time or, to set aside thinking time, on a continuous basis. But it's really important to know why is that? And you answer that question for yourself. I know for me, I've got a lot of things going on. Obviously, my business and 3 kids and a husband, and I'm on the board of our swim team, all the things, right? So you do too. You have a lot going on. And so it can be so easy to be rushing from the one thing to the next thing and trying to shoehorn everything into a day. And then day after day after day, the thinking time falls to the wayside. But I know for me, for example, when I take a moment and sometimes this happens in the shower, you're taking a shower and you get this amazing idea. You wonder where it came from. It's like because you have space to think or going on a walk or even just leaving the house for those of us who work from home, which is almost everyone as a consultant at this point. Really, just even leaving the house and getting that space to think and coming up with amazing ideas or solutions to problems that you might have been grappling with. And it feels like they just hit you, but they don't just hit you because you're in the shower or because you're in the car driving somewhere or because you're on a walk. They hit you because you are now having some space to listen to yourself. And so to me, this is so important just on a personal experience level to have experienced, and I'm sure you can relate to this too. So often when you give yourself that space to think, then that's when the ideas come. That's when the solutions to challenges that you're facing come. And that's why it's so important. The other thing that I've noticed, and I do this myself, but the other thing I've noticed is we've started using AI as a crutch because we're not prioritizing thinking time and we need to be thinking. We think that if we just chat with ChatGPT or Claude, for 5 or 10 minutes, that we can get all the answers that we need. And so now we're just cramming even more into the box. But the truth is that it's so important to use your brain as a business owner and give yourself the space that you need in order to grow your business, in order to reach your goals. There's a couple of quotes that I thought would be valuable to share with you with respect to this when you think about why does thinking time matter. And the first one is from Warren Buffett. He says, I insist on a lot of time being spent almost every day to just sit and think. Listen, Warren Buffett is a great person to listen to. He's been incredibly successful, right? I insist on a lot of time being spent almost every day to just sit and think. This is very uncommon in American business. And if you're not in the US, it's probably it's the same across the globe at this point. I read and think. So I do more reading and thinking and make less impulsive decisions than most people in business. Like the priority that Warren Buffett places on this when he's got so many different businesses that he's running, right? And his fund overall. Keith Cunningham also is someone in this space that I've loved to follow. And his book is called The Road Less Stupid. Love that book. Highly recommend it if you haven't read it yet. But he talks about, I love the way he described this. The most valuable tool in your business is not your phone, it's your thinking. And when I first read that, I took it a little bit literally. We're not on the phone anymore, technically. Obviously, we're on Zoom and those sorts of things. But when you don't think about it literally, the way he's talking about this is, using the word phone, but really thinking about emails and meetings and calls and Zooms that we're on. That's what typically entrepreneurs or business owners treat that phone as the most important tool, or your calendar, just going from meeting to meeting to meeting as the most important tool because it feels productive and urgent. But at the end of the day, without thinking first, all of that activity can create expensive mistakes and wasted time and the illusion of progress. The other thing I would add to that is it creates the repeated results, the results that you're used to. If you're just working on autopilot without taking a step back to think on purpose, you end up just recreating, what your brain is used to creating, whether that's the compensation that you made in corporate or the types of clients you're landing, without taking time and space to think. You end up just creating those results that you're used to creating and you have created in your life that's more on autopilot. So hopefully we're tracking here and on the same page that thinking time is really important and it can't be replaced, with just chatting with ChatGPT or Claude or whatever you use here and there throughout the day. This is taking the space and the time to think on your own, using your own brain. Don't let it atrophy. And believe me, I love technology. I talk to ChatGPT all day long, but that is not a substitute for also using your own brain. So then the question becomes, how can you make the most of this thinking time? What's an effective thinking time practice? And how do you get the most return on your investment? And by that, I mean the return on the time that you're spending and hopefully carving out on a weekly basis. So let's start with how to maximize your thinking time. I told you there would be 4 ways that you can maximize this. So I'm going to share those with you. And then we'll go into the 5 different pathways. How can you use the time most effectively? So to maximize your thinking time, number 1, prioritize it. This is incredibly simple, right? Put it on your calendar. Ideally at the beginning of the day. It's like if you love working out and you do that at the beginning of the day to make sure you get it done and over with so nothing else comes up and distracts you. Same kind of thing with thinking time. So you want to put it in your calendar. It could be every day for 15 minutes. That adds up. Think about that. Or it could be every Friday for an hour. Put it in your calendar, number 1. Number 2, paper. Use paper. Whether that's a notebook, a piece of printer paper, it doesn't matter. You want to be using paper instead of typing. And the reason why is there's a lot of studies around this, but the one I'll point you to just in the interest of time here on the podcast is a study by Mueller and Oppenheimer, 2014, where they really did a study on handwriting versus typing and found that when you're handwriting, you're engaging deeper. You have deeper processing than when you're typing. And that's because you can't write as fast as you type. And so because when you're writing, you're handwriting on a journal, a notebook, a piece of paper, you can't write as fast as you type. And so you're writing slower. It forces you to filter things, to synthesize things, to reframe things. It slows it down. and helps you to really process as you're going versus typing, which at the end of the day can be a lot more like even just transcribing. When you think about how fast you type, you're almost just transcribing what's in your brain versus really processing it. So that's why writing with a pen and a paper is so valuable for your thinking time. Then you want to have a purpose. What is your intention for your time? And I'm going to share 5 different pathways that you can take when you're leveraging your thinking time here in a moment. So I'll give you those. And the last one is also have a purpose, have a plan, but also don't overcomplicate it or overthink the thinking time. I don't know if you've heard that book, The One Thing. It's a great book, The One Thing. I've read it multiple times. I listened to their podcast on and off. I think I may have even taken one of their courses. I kept getting stuck on picking the right one thing. I actually finally figured it out, but it took me a really long time. I wasted so many, and I'll say years because it truly was years, so many years thinking I really wanted to try this method, the one thing, but I could never figure out what the one thing was. And I was so hell bent on finding the right one thing that I found no thing. It took me a long time. I've since used it a few times and it was valuable. But I say this to you because don't overcomplicate this. There's no right way to do the thinking time. There's no right answer. There's no one answer. There's just prioritize it, get yourself some paper and have a purpose. And don't worry about your purpose being right or wrong or the best use of your time. Just go do it. Okay. So those are my tips on how to maximize your thinking time. Now let's talk about the 5 pathways that you can leverage for the topic of your thinking time. So I called that purpose a minute ago, right? What is the purpose of your thinking time? How are you going to focus that thinking time? So if you think about it, and let's just bring this to life. If you've got a 20-minute or 30-minute thinking time session set forth every weekday, let's say. So you want to set your intention for that session. So there's 5 of these. So let's just break them down to the days of the week. Of course, you can organize this however you want to, but this is a simple way to describe it to you, where you can have 5 days a week. You're doing a 30-minute thinking time session, and each day of the week has a different theme. And the 5 themes are awareness, problem solving, ideation, goal and vision, relationship building, and identity. Those are the 5 themes that I recommend, or 5 pathways that I recommend you consider when you're thinking about what is the purpose of your thinking time so that you can make the most of the time that you're spending. So now that you know what those 5 themes could be, and again, you could pick one for each day of the week. You could do an hour and a half session on Fridays and tackle 2 or 3 of these. Again, there's no right answer. My goal in today's episode is to really reinforce the importance of thinking time and to give you some ideas on how and inspiration on how you can structure it for yourself. So let's dive into each of these 5 pathways or 5 themes, and then we'll end the episode with an exciting idea that I have for you that I would love for you to try. So, number 1, the awareness. The awareness is so important. How are you thinking? What's the impact of how you're thinking? So if you're picking a certain topic, like let's say your pricing or sales, how are you thinking about it? Just do what's called a thought download. Just write down everything on the piece of paper. It's like a brainstorming session. You're not judging anything. You're not filtering anything. You're just emptying your brain of all the ways that you're thinking about pricing, for example, or the way you're thinking about what you offer. You could have any topic around this, right? What's the impact of how you're thinking? In some ways, you want to parse this out. The way you're thinking might be helping you to reach and exceed your goals. It's so important to know that so you could think that way more often. This is not an exercise of just figuring out what's not going well. This awareness, pathway 1, awareness, is also a way to help you to see the way you're thinking that's working for you so that you can use it more often in a deeper way. Also, with respect to awareness, you might be asking yourself, how is your thinking limiting you? So you're asking yourself questions. You might pick a specific topic like pricing, or you might just generally write that, just start doing a thought download about all the ways that you're thinking about your business. There's no right or wrong way to do this, but the goal is to become aware of the way that you're thinking and the impact of the way you're thinking, whether it's setting you up for success or holding you back. I'll give you an example: awareness. One thought that may come out of this is making more money will make my life more complicated. If you have a thought like that so many consultants do, making my life will make my life more complicated, because we equate things like making more money means we need to spend more time working. Making more money might limit my schedule more. So those types of thought processes, and they're not facts, they're thought processes, will then lead us to either setting a lower goal that is, under our capability, or feeling like we're limited, versus really finding, taking this awareness and moving it forward to figure out other ways around the challenge that this isn't true, this belief system, and replacing it. So that's the first of the 5 pathways, is awareness. And I just gave you that example of uncovering those kinds of beliefs is really important, so that you know where you're operating against yourself and can redirect. Okay, the next pathway that you can leverage in your thinking time is problem solving. So, this is writing down a problem that you have at the top of your paper and then asking yourself a lot of questions. You wrote down a problem. Now, what is the real problem you're trying to solve? Is there something below the surface that is actually the real problem versus the one that feels more superficial? What don't you see? That's another great question. What assumptions are you making? What would cause this problem? Like looking at the root causes, for example. Really intentionally recognizing problems that you've got, and then taking a structured, super thinking, focused thinking approach to solving them, rather than just kind of ruminating on them all day long and worrying about them, but letting them kind of be that low grade humming noise in your brain that dilutes what you're trying to do throughout the course of the day. How amazing is it to have a session that says, listen, I'm not going to worry about that problem right now. I'm going to assign that to my next thinking session tomorrow, and really going to dig into that problem and figure out the root cause and what paths I want to test out to address it. The next pathway that you can leverage in your thinking time is ideation. This is about thinking bigger. This is about looking at your business vision and thinking about how are you going to get there and reimagining things. This is your time to really look at the business from a different vantage point and push yourself. Some of the questions that you might use in this type of thinking time for ideation are: if I had no constraints, what would I try? Or what would a different industry do to solve this problem or achieve this goal? Looking outside of your industry into other industries to potentially bring over other concepts. Or if I had to achieve 10x the result with 1/10 of the resources, how would I do it? So in this case, if you wanted to 10x your revenue with working 1/10 of the time, those are some extremes that break your current business model to help you see other ways of doing business, for example. Or if I started from scratch, how would I design this? Or if I couldn't fail, what would I attempt? Those are some examples of a pathway that, or as you're thinking about leveraging your thinking time from an ideation pathway. Okay, number 4. This might be an interesting one to you: goal and vision relationship building. I can't tell you how many times I talk to consultants and they either tell me they don't have a goal or a vision, a 3-year vision, or they have it, but they honestly have forgotten. And quite frankly, I've done this myself many times. My coach has to remind me what the goal was. We've talked about this goal amnesia. But for you, spending some thinking time on a weekly basis, or even a daily basis, quite frankly, but at least on a weekly basis, to build a relationship with your goals and your business vision. And a couple of questions that can help you to put this into place might be, to get you started: on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident am I that I will achieve my vision in the next 3 years? Why? Give it a number. Most of us would say 2 or 3 or 5. What would make it a 10? And then the second question you would ask yourself is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident am I that I will achieve my goal, whatever the goals are for this year or this quarter or this month? And why? And what would make it a 10? Like really digging in. The point is not to always be a 10. The point is to really understand, where are you at with respect to the relationship with your goal, so that you can strengthen it and ultimately bring that goal to life, because you feel really aligned to the goal. You know what it is, you're constantly thinking about it, and you're moving forward toward it, versus setting the goal and kind of dismissing it, hoping it comes to fruition, but not allowing yourself to really hang your hopes on it, such that you aren't disappointed if you miss it. That's not a relationship with a goal. Spending some thinking time every week building your relationship with your goal and your vision will help you to make sure that you bring it to life no matter what. And then finally, number 5, the fifth pathway for you to leverage for your thinking time. And then I'll tell you the fun way you could put this into action. The fifth way is working on your identity, aligning your identity to the bigger goal, to the bigger vision that you're wanting to accomplish, so that you're thinking like that version of yourself who has already brought it into life, and operating from that perspective in order to bring those goals to life, in order to achieve those goals. I'll give you some examples of questions you could be asking yourself in this pathway. Number 1, how would my future self, the business owner I want to become, think about fill in the blank? Think about my goals. Think about this situation. Think about this problem. So you're putting yourself in the headspace of the future self, the business owner, the version of you who's already achieved the vision that you want to achieve. And then look backward and say, oh, from that vantage point, $1 million business owner, how would they solve this problem? How would they set their goals? Similarly, how does a business owner who already has this thing that you want think about it? So put yourself into the headspace of another person that you know has already accomplished what you are trying to accomplish or want to accomplish or set a goal to accomplish, or who has already solved the problem you're trying to solve, and ask your question, how would they think about it? Another way to put identity into action in your thinking time is a question such as, on a scale of 1 to 10, rate yourself as a business owner in the way that you're thinking. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how well am I doing right now as a business owner? And then in terms of the way I think, that would be the question you would ask yourself. Why? And what would make it a 10? So those 5 pathways give you an idea, a very tangible idea of how you can put your business owner thinking time into action. What I want to do now is give you this fun 2 ideas for you to put what we talked about today into action for yourself, so that you see this on your calendar, so that you're prioritizing thinking time, so that you're no longer dismissing it and putting, just fighting the fire or treating it as a nice to have. This is incredibly important for you as a business owner, so you can zoom out and really accomplish what you're meant to accomplish and beyond that, versus keeping yourself stuck or at a plateau, or just recycling the same results over and over again. So here are 2 fun ways you can put today's episode into action. I'm excited to share these with you so that you can start making your thinking time a habit, something that you prioritize, and this will help give you a jump start. So the first of the 2 ways to put this into action are what I'm calling the Business Brain Challenge. This is a challenge that I'm hosting starting on October 1st through the 21st. So it's a 21-day challenge, and it's designed to help you build a thinking habit so that you can implement these 5 pathways we were talking about today in a structured way, in a way that's fun with other business owner peers. It's completely complimentary, so no charge for this Business Brain Challenge. And if it's something you're interested, go to businessownerlab.com, www.businessownerlab.com. You'll be redirected to a page where you can log in. And from there, you will join a community. In that community is where we'll be hosting this Business Brain Challenge. And again, it's 21 days where you'll come in each day. I will give you a short prompt, nothing overly complicated, but just something really short and simple that you can use to start answering and start building up this thinking time habit for yourself in all of these different pathways. So It will help you build that thinking habit. It will help you increase your awareness. It will help you realign your identity as a business owner, get rid of some of those old employee thinking paths that you have, help you to problem solve, and really overall rewire the way that you think as a business owner. So it's just a structure for you over the course of 21 days that you can leverage. And there'll be some fun things in there as well to make it exciting, like a leaderboard to help you compete if you'd like to compete with other people on your level of engagement, to create some accountability for yourself and to make it fun and exciting so that you want to do it instead of feeling like you have to. So again, you can find that at businessownerlab.com. It is a free community, a free challenge, and will help you to jumpstart this super thinking and business owner thinking process we've been talking about today. The second way to put today's episode into action, if you want something that's really structured for yourself, either in addition to the challenge or instead of the challenge, you can always go check out my Business Brain Journal. It's on Amazon. We'll put the link in the show notes so it's easy to find. But that Business Brain Journal is a very structured way for you to put these pathways into action and help you to increase and improve and up-level the way that you're thinking as a business owner so that ultimately you make it easier for yourself to achieve the goals that you're wanting to achieve in your business, and so that you feel more aligned as a business owner and the way that you're thinking to bring those goals to life. So that's the second way you can put today's episode into action. Again, we'll put the link in the show notes. We've been getting really good reviews on Amazon for the Business Brain Journal, so I'm excited for you to try it as well as an important tool to up-level the way that you're thinking and to make achieving your goals easier on yourself. All right. So those are the two ways to put it into action. Go hop over to thebusinessownerlab.com, and I'm excited to see you there. All right. Take care.
Thanks for joining me this week on the Grow Your Independent Consulting Business podcast. If you liked today's episode, I have 3 quick next steps for you. First, click subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to make sure you don't miss future episodes. Next, leave me a review in your podcast app so other independent consultants can find and benefit too. And finally, to put the ideas from today's episode into action, head over to melisaliberman.com for the show notes and more resources to help you grow your consulting practice from your first few projects into a full-fledged business. See you next week.